Does that make sense? John Stott, one of my favorite theologians, said this: relationship depends on birth, fellowship depends on behavior. Our assurance of salvation comes from our obedience to God. That's what happens. And the harder, if you're sitting here today, you're going, hey man, that's right where I am because I just feel hollow inside. I come to church and I leave and there's nothing really stirred. The harder you pursue the way of life that God has called you to live in your thoughts, in your actions, in your feelings, the greater awareness you're going to have of His presence in your life. But on the flip side, the softer and the weaker you pursue that relationship with God and obeying Him in what He has asked you to do, the less personal awareness of His presence in your life you're going to experience. Obedience. When you obey, it's sweet. It really is. Joel Beek said this: we cannot experience high levels of assurance while participating in low levels of obedience. Can't happen. Disobedience and sin literally rob us of that intimacy that we have with God. It robs us of the fellowship. I mean, when I was in college, I want to tell you something. I really struggled with that in college. Because when I was in college, my prayer life I was so busy, my prayer life dipped. I mean, way down to the point where I hardly prayed. And the first sign that your life is going to get really messy, spiritually speaking, is when your prayer life dips. And mine had gone way down. And I was so busy, I stopped reading the Word. I mean, I was studying to be a preacher, but my goodness, I only read it in class. And it was as a result of those two things, I let sinful behaviors that I thought were behind me creep back into my life. Things like lust, and pornography, and lies, and greed, and self-centeredness, and stealing. All of a sudden, they started to creep back into my life. And before I knew it, I had felt like my relationship with God was slipping away and I couldn't control it. And I felt so far from God. So far that I secretly, even though I never admitted it to anyone, that secretly I was wondering, gee, is my relationship with God even real? What had happened? Had my relationship with God ended? No. But because I was disobeying what I knew was His will for my life, I had lost that sense of peace, of assurance with my relationship with Him. That's what happens. I want to tell you, the pursuit of holiness is a tough battle. It is a tough battle. Obeying is not easy. It's hard work. It takes effort. It takes toil. And there have been times in my life, I'm going to tell you what, I know what goes on in my heart. Okay? I know how cruddy things can get inside. I know what kind of thoughts I'm capable of having. And to be honest, I know that I'm a self-centered, selfish, arrogant sinner who wants the best for myself usually above anybody else. That's the kind of person I am. And my will is so strong when I have to submit that. I want to tell you, there have been times in my life where my resolve to obey was in the toilet. And while being good enough can never get you into a relationship with God, being good enough, people, is the most important thing to enjoying fellowship with God. But it's tough. And it's not easy. And maybe you're thinking, gee, Jacques, are you sure you aren't making this stuff up? 1 John chapter 2, verse 3 says this: we know that we have come to know Him. Okay? In other words, we are confident that we actually know Him. We know that we come to know Him if we obey His commands. Remember Naaman? Remember that story? The moment he obeyed God and the prophet of God, that message, that word, the result was he knew God was real. Maybe you're here and you're looking for this fanatical religious experience that Naaman was. Maybe you're here and you're looking for a wild Christian experience. And I got to admit that a lot of time the church kind of feeds that mentality because we think, okay, come to our church, you'll see the video, the lights, the sound, the presentation, it's going to be great. And you're going to walk out of here having this huge relationship experience with God. It's going to be tremendous. People, the only thing that can give you intimacy with God the Father is this: obey. Period. It's not in the glitz and the glamour. It's in the dirt and the hard work. It really is. Marriage is a perfect example of this. I want to tell you, young people all the time will talk to us youth leaders and they'll say, my mom and dad are fighting all the time. I don't even think they love each other anymore. You have to walk on eggshells around our house. It's horrible. This is why you can be in a marriage and feel miserable. You really can. You can be in a marriage and feel miserable. That's because even though that relationship is established, the fellowship can be gone. It can be destroyed. I mean, Emily and I have been married now for a few years. And I want to tell you, I want to confess to you, the first year of our marriage was hell on earth. I want it out. Because both of us assumed that just because we were together now, just because we were married and around each other, things were going to be great. Boy, were we wrong. And I'm not just talking about because when she brushes her teeth, it's loud and spit flies everywhere and that annoys us out. I'm not just talking about that. I'm talking about it takes hard work to make a marriage work. And since then, people have coached us through that, and all of a sudden now, we go out to eat together, just the two of us. And we come home from work or whatever we're doing, and we listen to each other. And then when one of the other persons is gone, we clean something or we do something that serves the other person. And I want to tell you, when things like that are going on in our house, man, the joy in that fellowship with each other, it's sweet. But when we let those things drop, man, things get dicey in a hurry. They really do. Have you let things drop in your relationship with God? Is the fellowship broken?